Chair, would you like to start the housekeeping?
Yes, please.
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room. And please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings and other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order for our Technology Committee meeting for February 16th, 2024. And we'll go ahead and take a roll call.
Supervisor Doe. Supervisor Doe.
I'm here.
Supervisor Hagman is absent. Mayor Locke Dawson is absent. Mayor McCallum.
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent, and Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll move right into our action items. Item 1, redistribute funds, issue programs announcement for combustion freight and marine projects and zero emission Class 8 freight, port drayage trucks, and execute agreements under statewide Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Program. And we have a report.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ping Gui, and today I will be presenting on agenda item number 1, which is to redistribute funds, issue program announcement for combustion freight and marine and zero emission Class 8 trucks, and execute or modify agreements under the statewide VW program. Next slide, please. So in way of background, the board recognized up to $165 million from the VW Mitigation Trust to implement 2 of 5 funding categories for the VW program, which is a scrap and replacement type of program. The 2 funding categories are combustion freight and marine, which fund the replacement of older on-road trucks, switcher locomotives, and ferries, tugs, or tows with near-zero emission technologies. And zero-emission Class 8 trucks, which funds the replacement of older on-road trucks with zero-emission technologies. Next slide, please. However, though funding has been available statewide since 2019, the VW program hasn't been without its challenges. Through various restrictions placed on the program, including funds tied to their respective categories and lower funding amounts per equipment, only about 40.7 million, which 80% are domiciled within South Coast, have been awarded over 3 separate solicitations, 2 for combustion freight and marine, and 1 for zero-emission Class 8 trucks. Next slide, please. To mitigate some of these challenges, South Coast AQMD has been actively working with CARB to update the VW program, which led to CARB modifying the program through a memo to their board in April of 2023. Some of the modifications include allowing fund migration between the 2 funding categories implemented by South Coast, allowing funds to go where more of the demand is. Stacking with other state incentives where no double counting of NOx emissions occur. Increasing the award cap by 20% for all project categories, and allowing the zero-emission switcher locomotives as a replacement option under the combustion freight and marine category. Next slide, please. So moving forward, the eligible projects and their replacement technology are shown in this table. For the combustion freight and marine category, replacement or repower of Class 7 and Class 8 freight trucks to low NOx 0.02. Replacement or repower of switcher locomotives to Tier 4 or zero emission technologies, and repower of ferries, tugs, or tows to Tier 4 or NOx equivalent technologies. And for the zero emission Class 8 trucks category, replacement of Class 8 trucks to zero emission technologies, which includes battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell. Next slide, please. Staff is therefore proposing to redistribute unspent and or unencumbered VW program funds to allow the migration of funds between the funding categories, again, moving funds to areas where there is more demand. Issue a program announcement to solicit projects on a first-come, first-served basis under the combustion freight and marine and zero-emission Class A trucks categories for approximately $109.3 million. Next slide, please. And the recommended actions are, one, to redistribute the funding source from unspent and or unencumbered funds. Next slide, please. Two, issue program announcement PA 2024-03 for approximately $109.3 million. And three, to authorize the executive officer to execute agreements and subsequent modifications for eligible projects selected through this program announcement. And that concludes my presentation. I will be happy to take questions.
Thank you for your report, and we'll see if there's any questions before we go to public comment. No? Okay. Do we have any public comment?
I don't see any hands raised online.
Okay.
I'll move the item.
Okay, we have, seeing none, we'll close public comment. I have a motion. Thank you, Supervisor Hagman. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Callen. As far as discussion, I'll just say I'm pleased to see that staff is looking at opportunities to maximize our resources and move them to areas that are of best use, and also to leverage other opportunities by snagging grants. So we'll call for the vote.
Supervisor Dole?
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman?
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Locke Dawson is absent. Mayor McCallum?
Yes.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent. Chair Rodriguez?
Yes?
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we do item
Yes.
2, can I do my disclosure since I kind of
Yes, we do have
it's
a
on
few
item
there.
2.
Please go ahead, Supervisor.
So for the agenda item 2, I do not have a financial interest, but I am required to identify for the record that I'm a regional council member for the Southern California Association of Governments, which is involved in this item. Thank you.
Thank you, and Mayor Pro Tem.
And if I might, I will ditto whatever Hagman said.
Okay, thank you, colleagues.
Sorry.
Can I also make my announcement? Mr. Chair? Hello?
Oh, yes, go ahead, Supervisor Doe.
What happened?
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yes, go. We can hear you.
Oh, you can. Thank you. For agenda item number 2, I do not have a financial interest, but I am required to identify for the record that I am a member of both the Policy and Transportation Committees for SCAG, which is involved in this item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. So with that, we'll move ahead to item 2, execute contract to develop and demonstrate megawatt fast charging for battery electric trucks. And we have a staff report. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I'm Patricia Kwan. I'm a program supervisor in the Technology Demonstration Group, here to present on agenda item number 2. Next slide. So some background, this project, the EPRI e-truck project, received a $13 million grant from CEC and to develop and to demonstrate megawatt fast charging, specifically for Class 7 and Class 8 battery electric trucks, to accelerate the commercialization of these technologies. So EPRI is leading this project, and they are part of a team of industry, government, national labs, academia, utilities, and community partners. So the intent is to utilize a SAE-approved megawatt charging connector to extend the range and reduce charging time. Next slide. So staff proposes and recommends providing $1.5 million in co-funding for the e-truck project. This project would involve working closely with OEMs, Daimler, Volvo, Navistar, on developing MCS-capable trucks, and with ABB on the MCS charger. During this kind of 2-year development timeline, after that point, the trucks and the chargers would be demonstrated in our South Coast region, initially at the Edison R&D lab in Pomona for some initial testing and verification. Then it would actually be deployed at a Travel Centers of America truck stop in Ontario. Next slide. So this is the rough design for that truck stop. It would consist of 3 charging lanes for the megawatt charging system and solar and storage to reduce peak on energy usage. So the intent is to collect data to demonstrate the combination of the MCS-capable trucks and the chargers, and to look at the improvement in performance on the truck side, any impacts on the batteries, and really to also test pathways for commercialization for both of these technologies to work together. Next slide. So this is looking at the resource impacts associated with the project. In addition to the $13 million in CEC funding, which has already been awarded, we are proposing the $1.5 million from the South Coast AQMD Clean Fuels Fund, and there are other project partners making contributions to this project for a total project of $19.3 million. Next slide. So the recommended action is for authorizing the executive officer to execute a contract with EPRI in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million from the Clean Fuels Fund. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. It's exciting news to hear, and I'll take any questions from colleagues.
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
And this is probably more for Wayne, but for the whole team, as this is a fantastic project. So looking forward to it. We kind of are going this way, and with the other hats we all wear, we sit on different boards. So one of the boards I sit on is Omnitrans, and they're developing their own site for hydrogen and electric fueling. But as each individual government entity has to be transferred in these things, I'm just wondering if wouldn't that either be us or maybe working with SCAG to do kind of like a master plan of the region. I know it's not quite on there on the subject, but just, as we cite projects, as we invest in projects, if they're part of a master plan, the connect dots along the way, it makes a lot more sense for me. So this is the first one, but as we look forward to hopefully sponsoring others in the future, are we working on that? Kind of like look for that. It may be regional type of hubs versus individual hubs. This says 4 truck bins right now, or 4 charging stations, but with the amount of volume that we anticipate 20 years from now, should we be looking at a place to hold 100? Those type of things going forward, and should we reserve land?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Dr. Katzenstein to answer that. He does do a lot of the coordination, he and his team. So, Aaron?
Yeah, Supervisor, that's a great comment. For the fuel cell side, there is a map out there that the Fuel Cell Partnership puts out on the stations that are available. It tells you the uptime, but you're absolutely right. For the vehicle truck charging stations, we don't have that map available right now. And we've been pushing for a partnership or someone to develop that map to show what's the public charging availability for truck charging, essentially. SCAG is working on a master plan for a blueprint of where these chargers should go and how many are needed for public charging. And we are working with them very closely on that plan also.
No, it's good. And I guess is my incoming role. Hopefully, if as president of SCAG, I'll have more interest in that and working together. But I do see that need and be communicating with the local governments, the county governments, other entities like our LA Metro and Omnitrans and other, because they all have the same needs. And so instead of building the infrastructure for their capability, maybe we all team up together and build it bigger so it's more cost effective in the long run. But it's just some future thoughts on this. But if there's no other questions, I'll move to item 2, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments, colleagues? Before we go to public comment, I would just support the supervisor's inquiry as to the opportunity to look at this from a broader regional standpoint, and if there's an opportunity to engage with SCAG in the near future, particularly with the supervisor's incoming role at SCAG, it'd be a great opportunity to see how we could maybe leverage resources. So would welcome in the future maybe staff to come back and give us an update on how that might be possible to look into that. Let's move towards any public comment.
Yeah, we have one public commenter, well, 2 online now.
Okay.
First one, I believe, was Bobby Joe. I believe she just went down to the second. So
hi, thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. My name is Bobby Jo Chavarria. I am the senior field organizer with the Clean Transportation for All campaign with the Sierra Club, and really wanted to thank staff for putting together this proposal because of the importance of EV charging infrastructure for these heavy duty trucks that are inundating communities like mine in Fontana and Ontario. Obviously, the widespread adoption of electric trucks is essential in tackling air pollution and addressing climate crisis. And it's crucial that we prioritize the development of charging infrastructure to support this transition. So I think the testing model is great. I would like to let the board know that there are some regional coalitions that are working on tracking these projects and mapping them out. So there's the Inland Southern Climate Collaborative, as well as our friends at Radical Research, who have mapped out not only all of the warehouses, but potential sites for charging infrastructure. And then in the LA area, we also have a coalition of folks working with AQMD and board members to ensure this transition. So there are these operations or these collaborations already happening. And yes, I think it makes sense to include local governments, and that's part of what my job moving forward will be. I will want to just emphasize that while there's been discussion about like hydrogen fuel cells for heavy duty trucks, it's important to know that the EV technology is already well developed and proven. And so for those agencies in the area, let's really focus on EV technology. We have, over a billion square feet of warehouse roofs that can provide the infrastructure for solar panels and clean energy in that way. Tons of charging potential. We just need to work with our utilities to make it happen. And there is no, really a need to stop sort of designating land as if, we can use up all the land. We need to allow for some open space. So I thank you so much, AQMD, to prioritizing this development of the EV charging infrastructure and the study. And I am looking forward to seeing how we continue to work together and expand these programs.
Thank you for your comment. And we have another public comment online. Is it Harvey Etter?
Yes. This is Ranji George. Can you hear me, please?
Ranji George. Go ahead, Ranji.
Thank you. My name is Ranji George. I'm ex-TAO staffer, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear the infrastructure being improved for heavy-duty trucks in the electric vehicles type thing, and I hope the commitment to improve the hydrogen fuel cell infrastructure will be retained and expanded for heavy duty. But in as much as there's good network being built for both heavy duty and light duty for electric vehicles, the network for light duty hydrogen fuel cells have been almost collapsing. I mean, with the Chevron announcing, not Chevron, Shell, sorry, apologize, Shell withdrawing from hydrogen fueling stations for light duty, I urge the board members and staff to put together other oil companies, other sources to put these stations on so that we have zero emission vehicles that consist of both electric vehicles and fuel cells. So, but in the light duty, it's just disappearing. And when we were there, when we led the program, we knocked on almost every door to make sure that they participate, and we got commitments to participate. By the time we left, there were commitments to put these stations, but those commitments have been not honored except Shell for a short time. So I urge you to get involved in the light duty sector as well, especially for hydrogen fuel cells. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Our next public comment.
We have Harvey Eder.
Thank you.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
Harvey.
Okay.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Harvey Eder. For myself. I'd like to ditto and encourage the last two speakers, Ranji, and I don't recall the woman's name, but she had to do with gag and stuff like this, and charging stations like Ranji was talking about. Okay. What we've been working with is models of public power. For instance, we work extensively with the Sierra Club on their on public power. I started out in Marin CCAs, Community Choice Aggregation. So now, in the unincorporated areas of LA County, 30 cities, and unincorporated Ventura County, we have the third largest electric utility in the state, okay? It's been that way for several years. There's a lot more that we can do with that entity. And also, LA is the largest municipal city-owned in the state. We've been looking at different models of solar co-ops. There's co-ops. There's an association of co-ops that was started in the Depression in 1937 by Roosevelt. The free market system would not electrify rural America. So the government came in, started rural electric co-ops. Also, co-ops were started in the 1900s and by the farmers so they could ship their stuff to market. And they've been around in different models. It's like 5-10% of our current economy is co-ops. Okay, several $1 trillion. So, and there's municipals and there's regional systems like SMUD's got regional, and then there's a TVA and Bonneville federal. All right, the thing is, we've been seeing this climate stuff, the fires and stuff. Twice PG&E's got bankrupt. Hundreds of billions of dollars we subsidize. Okay, enough is enough. Edison's got the same problem. The problem with the fires and stuff, climate, they can't take it. Public power is 20% less costly because it uses taxes and bonds, etc. It's the way to go. It's the most cost effective. We got to have redistribution to, as Scott Piketty, the French economist, in 14 capital in the 21st century and 16 capital in ideology. In the last 30, 40, 50 years, there's been no increase in income from 2/3 of the population, income or equity. Productivity's gone up 70-80%. It's all gone to the top 1%, 1/10, and 1/9, 1/100th of 1%. Okay, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. In a book written in 10, I forget the guy's name. Stiglitz, a guy. He's at Columbia, ran the World Bank. He's here. The cost of inequity.
Thank you, Mr. Eder. Appreciate your comments. Do we have any further public comments?
No additional public comment.
Okay, we'll bring it back. I just wanted to ask staff, do we have a sense of the anticipated use once this is fully operational, what that might look like?
Yeah, so right now the battery technology is catching up with this megawatt charging. The megawatt charging is really needed because theoretically with the charge cycles on the trucks, you can charge a truck in 20 minutes. So it's much more similar to a fueling of diesel or, that sort of use cycle. So this project, as you get the standard in place, the charger plugs and all that, the OEMs are working right now to develop the trucks for this application.
So as far as Class 7 and Class 8 battery electric trucks that would be utilizing this?
That's correct,
Do
yeah.
you have a sense of timing for when this would be operational? And then how frequently it would be used? Can you just want to get a little bit more into understanding that?
Yeah, that's a little hard to project the time frame on this because one, the trucks have to be commercialized for the application.
Yeah.
And the second problem is, we've had a lot of discussion in the tech committee on the infrastructure challenges on plugging in trucks. Typically right now the charger installations are 250 kilowatts. And when you try to, add several of those to the electrical grid, that has challenges. We're going to face even greater challenges as we try to add megawatt charging to the grid. So that's another hurdle we also have to, surpass here. So I suspect
challenges, can you maybe unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so well, in short, I always kind of say that the electrical grid, distribution grid here in Southern California is very constrained. And so when you add large megawatt loads to the grid, it does provide a challenge for the utilities to provide that power on a local source. So there are areas where there is available power, but you have to match that power with available land and, be able to put a charger in place. So as we add more and more chargers, we reduce that electrical capacity to the grid, available capacity, and the utility has to catch up by adding more capacity. So we kind of go in a circle here. And that's kind of the state we're in right now, is we have to find these locations where we have capacity to add chargers and get those chargers in place. The example is the Empire State Building that's 10 megawatts of load. Well, that's 50 battery electric Class 8 trucks is 10 megawatts. And we need to scale up for thousands of these trucks. So that's the challenge we face here in the near future.
So what does the Electric Power Research Institute have to say about capacity implications related to this project?
We haven't
and availability
discussed,
in order to execute this.
That's something we haven't really discussed with them per se for this project. This project's real focused on just getting that standard in place for that megawatt charging. But we could ask them if they have other studies in place like this for the distribution grid.
Okay, well, more to come. We'll look forward to hearing more about this. Is this similar to what we approved for the UCLA fast charging project, or is this a different technology?
So the UCLA fast charging was really on the generation side. So that's trying to help the grid provide the power until the grid can catch up to provide the power for the chargers. So this is the charger itself, and we still have to get the power to the charger, and that was last month's project, was getting the power generated through a fuel cell application.
And then lastly, are there other locations being considered for future projects? And how many will there be in total?
Hard to say how many in total. We do have lots of projects we're looking at. It's just we have to get the projects together and make sure they're viable.
Is anything imminent, do you think, is of this nature?
Hard to say. I don't want to say because we have project partners out there that will be listening. So,
okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to a vote.
I moved it. I don't know.
Okay, so that's a motion and second, and call for the vote.
Supervisor Doe?
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman?
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Lock Dawson is absent. Mayor McCallum?
Yes.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent, and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes,
Motion passes 4 ayes.
thank you. Item 3, approve and adopt Technology Advancement Office Clean Fuel Cells Program 2023 Annual Report and 2024 Plan Update Resolution and Membership Changes for Clean Fuels Advisory Group. And we have a staff report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Tech Committee. My name is Vasilios Papapostolou, and I oversee the Technology Demonstration Unit in the Technology Advancement Office. Today, I will talk about the annual report and the plan update. Next slide, please. So, state law requires South Coast AQMD to submit the annual report and plan update of the Clean Fuels Program every year by March 31st. The annual report is a document that looks at program accomplishments in the prior calendar year, in this case 2023, and the plan update looks ahead at proposed projects, recalibrating the technical emphasis of the program. Next slide, please. In 2023, we sponsored 18 conferences, workshops, and events combined. And we also renewed memberships with the California Hydrogen Business Council, the Hydrogen Fuel Cell Partnership, and the CalSTART. As you can see, we are very active in the public outreach aspect of the program. That is a main component of our work to promote and deploy clean technologies. Next slide, please. Over the years, the Clean Fuels Program has been funding different stages of the technology with a focus on development, demonstration, and deployment. Projects funded by the program provide a portfolio of different technology choices and also allow to achieve emission reductions for the short and the long term until those are commercialized. And once technology is commercialized, then incentives and regulation will work together side by side to spread out those technologies and also facilitate market penetration for greater and wider emission reductions. Next slide. This slide is a very brief summary of the Technology Advancement Office as a whole on zero and near zero emission projects for the time period 2018 to 2023. On the left, we have the Clean Fuels Program. We leveraged a total of $900 million in project costs by providing support through the Clean Fuels of $53 million across 3 categories that you see on the chart. Zero emissions technologies with $36 million or 68%, near zero emission technologies, $13.5 million, and other category with $3.5 million. That other category includes sponsorship, outreach activities, and so on. On the right side, we have the other programs in TAO, the incentive programs, that awarded a total of $800 million for that time period, 2018 to 2023. And the distribution of those funds is shown on the chart on 3 categories: zero emission, near zero emission, and transition of tier 1 and tier 2 to tier 3 and 4 categories. In numbers, zero emission, $270 million or 34%, $163 million or 20% for near zero emission, and $370 million for the third category, the transition to tier 3 and 4 final, or 46%. On this chart, we also see the distribution of the emission reductions for NOx and PM. So total of about 3,000 tons per year projected for that period of time, and also about 85 tons per year emission reduction in terms of PM 2.5 and PM 10. Next slide, please. The next 2 slides focus on the 2023 Clean Fuels Program activities. So you can see here on the left, 22 contracts were executed last year for a total of $17 million. 7% of that funding comes from the clean fuels. It's $1.4 million, and the breakdown is on the right side. And it's distributed across 3 categories: electric and hybrid technology and infrastructure for 41%, stationary clean fuels technology for 14%, and technology assessment and transfer and outreach at 45%. Next slide, please. And here's some key clean fuels contract activities during 2023. We're listing here a few projects, a new contract with Rocket Track, the ongoing JETSI activities, and a couple completed projects, one with Daimler and two with Cummins. And those are, again, clean fuels activities during 2023. Next slide, please. One back, thank you. The next three slides now are looking at the overall TAO activities, clean fuels off-road and infrastructure projects supported by the entire division. So on this slide, we're seeing some of the major funding partners for all those projects in 2023. We have government agencies partnering up with us, EPA, DOE, CalSTA, CEC, and others. Major manufacturers, technology providers, and OEMs, such as Daimler and Volvo. Local entities, the two ports, Long Beach and Los Angeles, and others, and also fleet providers such as Prologis and Wabtec. All of these partners have contributed a total of $94 million that has been awarded to South Coast to partner up with all those entities and work on the clean projects. Next slide, please. And here's a breakdown of that $94 million. And we have, again, partnerships with CalSTA, EPA, and DOE, and ranging between hydrogen charging and hydrogen fueling infrastructure, all the way for the demonstration of the hydrogen fuel cell locomotive at $76 million, and also plug-in hybrid tugboat, fuel cell trucks, battery electric asphalt compactors, and so on. Next slide, please. This is still 2023, and the list here includes grant proposals that we submitted during last year. If you do the math there, we have a total of $400 million worth of proposals submitted by TAO as a whole. We have 5 proposals submitted with CARB, and we're waiting to hear back on whether we are being awarded any or some or all of those 5 projects with CARB for a total of $200 million. And there were also 2 proposals we submitted with DOT, also around $200 million, and those were not selected this time. Next slide. Now going back to the Clean Fuels Program and looking ahead into the 2024 calendar year, here is the distribution of the various categories that we are proposing to provide funding support. The Clean Fuels total amount that we're proposing is $33 million, and all of those categories combined have a total project cost of about $560 million. So essentially, this is a $17 leveraged for every dollar coming from the Clean Fuels Program. I would like to point out a couple things here. 3 categories, in blue, orange, and gray: zero emission infrastructure, electric hybrid technologies, and hydrogen fuel cell technologies comprise 66% of this proposed funding. And it is expected that this kind of support there will help reduce the NOx emissions in the South Coast air basin very significantly. Another thing to point out is that we have support for the health impact studies category, and that will provide support to the upcoming MATE 6 program at South Coast. And we're looking into that, and there's studies that will be conducted, for example, brake and tire wear studies that we're looking to help support to inform the MATE 6 program and others. Also, we have a new category, the renewable fuel infrastructure category there, that is new for the 2024 calendar year. Next slide. At this point, we would like to thank all of those advisory group members in the Clean Fuels Advisory Group and also the Tech Advancement Advisory Group for their contributions and recommendations that they make over time to help move forward with our work. At this time, we would like to propose new members to be added to those two groups. We have a representative from the Port of Long Beach, Port of Los Angeles, First Element Fuel, Chevron, and the Union of Concerned Scientists to propose to be added to the Tech Advancement Advisory Group, and two new members with DTNA and Cummins to be added to the Clean Fuels Advisory Group. Next slide. And this is quickly the development schedule for the annual report and the plan update. So it's a process that starts sometime early summer, goes through September, October, a technology committee review for the draft version of those documents, and all the way through February of the tech committee now, and then March and end of March submission to the state legislature. Next slide. And finishing up with the recommended actions. Approve the Clean Fuels Program 2023 annual report, adopt the Clean Fuels Program plan update for 2024, adopt the resolution finding that no duplicate projects or programs funded by other state local agencies, approve and adopt the Clean Fuels Advisory Group membership changes, and receive and file the Technology Advancement Advisory Group membership changes. And thank you very much, and open to any questions, comments.
Thank you for your report. I'll take any questions, colleagues. No? Okay, do we have anyone public comment?
Yeah, we have one public commenter, Ranji George. I believe he has 1:20 left.
Okay. Ranji, we can
Hello,
go ahead.
this is Ranji George, ex-Technology Advancement Office. I've worked on many of these clean fuel plans before, and I'm again disappointed that the zero emission category is not broken down into battery infrastructure and hydrogen infrastructure. Is this another conspiracy against hydrogen? For all these years, they have put batteries and electric fuel cells together, call it zero, but 90% of the funding ends up going to batteries and 10% of hydrogen. In the early years, it was called clean fuel funding, and 90% under that went to natural gas, and the remainder to batteries and fuel cells. Now it's called zero emission. So I urge the board members to break it up further to make sure that hydrogen gets its due share of funding, which has been lacking last 25 years. So I urge you to make that distinction and to provide. And secondly, to provide more funding for battery recycling demonstration. There's a huge battery issue coming up down the pipeline, and we are not recognizing that neither the environmental groups nor these agencies appreciating the enormity of the battery recycling coming.
Thank you. Any other comment?
No additional public comment.
Okay, and then on the slide with the breakdowns of expenditures on the 33 million, can you go back there real quick?
Up.
I think it was back a few slides.
Up a few slides. Yep.
Okay, so when we talk about hydrogen fuel cell technologies and 15%, how does that category align with some of the previous comments? Or not?
The comment was basically on the
sorry about that.
zero emission infrastructure.
Or where would that last comment fall under the zero
The
emissions
zero
infrastructure?
emission infrastructure.
The 36%. And, Chair, I just want to recognize that we have been very balanced on the hydrogen aspect. Part of the 93 million in awards we received last year, we have the first fuel cell locomotive, liquid hydrogen fuel cell locomotive being developed, and that was a $46 million award around there. So.
And how does this 15% align with our last year's? Is it about the same or?
Yeah, so this plan, and also in alignment with last year, we are putting more emphasis on a lot of the fuel cell technologies because a lot of the battery electric trucks per se, they've been commercialized. So we're trying to get those Class 8 fuel cell trucks into the commercial market. We're starting to see that Nikola's got their truck now out there. We hear that Toyota's got a powertrain they're starting to sell. So we are starting to see the trucks commercialized, but we still, on both ends, need the infrastructure for hydrogen and for the battery electric technologies.
And so how would that ratio be under this 36% expenditure?
Well, this is a estimated projection based on some projects we know about right now, but we actually bring these projects to the technology committee and to the board. This 36%, I can't say it's going to be 50-50 right now. It just depends on what projects pan out.
So we have flexibility. It's not an earmark one way or the other. We'll just see how the opportunities present themselves and then pursue them accordingly.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. And then as to the issue on battery recycling and where that falls under these categories and our efforts to better understand how that could be addressed. Well, does that fall anywhere in here as to being able to explore that?
So I know I've spoken on this matter previously. The state has really, I would say, upped its game with regards to the recycling effort. US EPA also announced a significant investment into the battery recycling areas. This is generally considered a solid waste area, and I recommend that we continue to certainly advocate for those agencies to continue their efforts. But as far as our dollars being spent, I think they're better spent on the actual transportation and infrastructure side.
Okay, so when the point of advocating and whatnot is, I suppose I just would like to have some awareness of how we're doing that. We don't have to do that today, but just I don't think it's at all being dismissed at all from your comments, but just being able to have some follow-up as to how we're advocating and what opportunities there are and what progress is being made.
Chair.
I think that would be just some general direction and interest I would have. I think we kind of reflects other comments that we've had here and in a governing board. So,
Chair, if I may, either it may be next month, it may be the month after, but right now we're trying to, last year we had a presentation from one of the national labs on battery recycling, and there was comment in previous tech committee that we'd like to bring in a private recycling facility to talk about that process. So we think that's going to happen either next month or the month after. We're just trying to reserve the time period for them.
Fantastic, very timely. I appreciate the follow-up on that. And then just lastly, in regards to the zero emission infrastructure, then we see further opportunities for charging stations, things of that nature. Is that where some of those funds would be emphasized for on the electric and hydrogen, et cetera?
Yeah, I'd say both sides. As you know, we're looking at technologies to help provide the power to charge battery electric trucks. That often involves fuel cell technologies. So we're looking at those. There's a lot of startups that we're looking at right now on the power side. But we do have an RFP that will be closing next week for infrastructure. And it looks like so far we have a pretty good response for that. I don't think we're going to be able to fund all the projects we get submitted, but we are working on additional grant applications that are available right now and becoming available through the federal government. So we hope to get awarded some additional funds this year for infrastructure.
So we see under the 36% zero emission infrastructure, there would be a opportunity under those expenditures to enhance, for example, electric charging stations. Would that be fair to say we would see that? Yeah,
this what you're looking at on this pie chart, this is really the kind of the research, development, demonstration, deployment, and this relates back to like that megawatt charging proposal that you just had reviewed. On just the wide scale implementation, that hits more of the incentive programs, the Carl Moyer program and things like that. So that is not represented in this pie chart.
Okay. And where I'm going with this, and colleagues, thanks for indulging me here. I'm interested in understanding and having us examine some of the implications of your prior comments of capacity challenges. So as we're looking at these funding opportunities and we're pursuing them, I'm very interested in understanding that alignment with the pursuit of those and what we anticipate meeting the capacity needs that come with that infrastructure. So that will be an ongoing question that I have as to really being understand, have we had those discussions, or what do we know about that information? What conversations are happening with the utilities as to being able to have alignment with here's where we're going with these funds, and do we have the capacity to meet those once these come to fruition? So any type of clarity that can be provided, and if we anticipate any challenges, defining what those challenges are, rather than saying there's challenges, like what do we mean by that? And then just what those implications are as to how do we solve those challenges. I would be very interested in learning more about that. So just more of a future set of questions I would have, that we would come to us with that already in hand, as far as that we're looking into that, rather than us being, me giving you those questions, or us coming to you with those questions, maybe having some of that information, or at least letting us know that that was being looked into. So just for that, unless anyone else has anything, I'll just leave it there and we can call for the vote.
I'll move it.
Second.
So we can go ahead and roll call on the vote.
Supervisor Doe,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Luck Dawson is absent, Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent, and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Okay, any other business? Okay, seeing none, we have any other public comment?
We have one additional public comment, Ranji George.
Okay. Ranji, feel free to go ahead and make your public comment.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Board Member Rodriguez, thank you for your comments. I appreciate you following up and keeping the questions for hydrogen alive, because there's a tendency to push it under the rug. Thank you for that. I also want to, however, express a concern that there's a time limit for members to speak, and that time limit amounts to only 3 minutes for all the items. It used to be per item, and I find that very troubling. It's true in the world, the democracy itself is fading. It's collapsing. Everybody, authoritarian regimes have taken over both, and it seems that trend is continuing in the board setting by limiting public comment. I mean, staff and board members have unlimited time to speak on the topic, and some of us have some background, actually fairly strong background in some of these technologies, and we are not allowed to, are limited to this time. So please do reconsider that. And then finally, on the comment on battery recycling, little disappointed that, more than disappointed that the executive officer said that they don't have staff for this. It's one of the biggest issues we are going to face in the future. It will be in LA. There'll be dozens of huge battery recycling operations have to be planned. And one of the main things besides solid waste will be the air pollution. These are new technologies that's coming in to recycle these technologies. We don't know. We need to be on top of it, and there will be air pollution impacts like we experienced with the GNB batteries, albeit it's a lead-acid battery, but there were other pollutants besides batteries in that facility, and there were 30 years public litigation on that. And I believe you are familiar, some of the board members may be familiar with the sad episode of GNG battery recycling. And the similar episode will happen with almost each battery facility being relocated here, so in the future. So I'd urge you, and then there is the other Cometco. Cometco has their people protesting their expansion of their facility, and that's also partly air pollution based. So you can see just 2 battery facilities, and so there's so much uproar has been happened in the past. So this similar is going to happen in the future. So please, I hope you focus on this. Otherwise, we are telling the next generation, we don't care. That, okay, we have done our duty, now it's your turn to clean up the waste we created. So I urge you to please focus on the battery recycling, and that will be very important. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any others? I see that Harvey Etter.
Yep, Harvey
Hands up.
Etter.
Okay. Harvey?
Howdy. I'm being heard, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for Public Solar Power Coalition. I'd like to thank Ranji for his comments. The first part where he talked about, having time on everything, and some people have bankrupt, this is true, okay? But near the end, he said something that brought to mind words from a poet, cultural person. He said, "We just don't care." Okay, Neil Young, Crazy Horse, and Rockin' in the Free World has changed the end of that in 2016, the Anchor Hotel. He talks about oil and fossil fuels. And his line is, we got to show the children that we just don't care. We keep on burning it and put it in the air, quote, close quotes, Neil Young, Crazy Horse. Straight up, we don't. We're discounting the future, discounting the present. Ranji's got degrees from the London School in physics and economics. Modern economics totally ignores our ecosystem, our watersheds, etc. It gives no value to them, that we can keep on trashing it. Another problem is that the belief that we're in God's image, and that we're the city on the hill, and that we're not part of nature as humans. So we can wipe out our infrastructure, our life support system, and our belief system is consistent, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. We've got some real problems here in River City, our belief systems, our values. Anyway, thank you, Ranji. Hang in there, man. And I just want to remind people that there's been a law. They're making the fuel cells are burning hydrogen made from natural gas. It's against the law in the state. It's supposed to be a majority from solar renewables. Electrolysis breaks it down into hydrogen and oxygen, and that can be done. That's done with solar electric. So these things have to be owned and controlled. The question is equity, decision-making control. And it has to be linked to labor and the communities and right of first refusal for this so that we can develop equity. We are seeing $30 trillion in debts, and they're saying in 5 years it's going to go to 40. They're saying 20% of Social Security won't be able to pay. Medi-Cal's falling apart.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any other comments that came online during that point? Doesn't look like I see any raised hands. Am I missing anything there?
No additional commenters.
Okay, great. We'll close the public comment, and with that, conclude the meeting. Our next scheduled meeting will be Friday, March 15th, 2024 at noon, and wishing everyone a great rest of the day and great weekend. Thank you.